reality is, inside the Falcons building, it is evident. Kirk Cousins physically is not what he was. He's just not.
You plays and throws during the game where you just go, I've never seen Kirk Cousins make a decision that bad.
I think I do need to play better. I don't think that's a mystery. I think the last few weeks I would say, I need to play better, and it's stating the obvious.
I have had players inside that locker room tell me point blank, Michael Penix Jr. is the best quarterback in this building.
Everyone thought the Falcons were insane for drafting Michael Penix after giving Kirk Cousins a $100 million contract, but it turns out they knew something we didn't.
We have Kirk. For however long Kirk gives us great football, and we're preparing Michael to take over whenever that time comes.
After signing Kirk Cousins in March, many wondered if he would be healthy since he suffered an Achilles injury while with the Minnesota Vikings in 2023.
If the season started today, your role would be what with the team?
I believe I'm a starting quarterback.
No, but health-wise.
I'm good to go. I've told people for a while.
Whoa, that clip is awkward to look at now, but in the offseason, Kirk Cousins claimed he was healthy and many NFL fans believed him, but everything changed on draft night.
The 2024 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Michael
The Falcons' draft selection for Penix at pick 8 shocked the entire world because they had just given Kirk Cousins $100 million guaranteed.
This was not just the surprise of the night. This was one of the most shocking picks in an NFL draft in the past 5 years.
People even made memes about how long Michael Penix would have to wait before he finally starts. These memes were just echoing reality because at press conferences during the offseason, the Atlanta Falcons suggested that Michael Penix could sit for 4 or 5 years behind Kirk Cousins, which would have been hilarious if that is still the plan, because then Penix would have been a 30-year-old first-time starter in the NFL. After the draft, it seemed like Kirk Cousins felt tricked. He had no idea what the Falcons were doing. Would he have worn a chain to pander to the Atlanta market had he known they were selecting his replacement in Michael Penix? Back when Kirk Cousins was signed by the Falcons, he even went as far as saying that he wants to retire a Falcons. When Penix was selected, reports emerged saying that Cousins was disappointed, and Cousins also said that the Falcons never told him anything, despite them suggesting that they would let him know if they decided to draft a quarterback. What was hilarious was the head coach Raheem Morris and GM Terry Fontenot's press conference when a reporter let them know that Cousins' agent said he was surprised by the Penix pick.
His agents kind of been telling us that they were shocked and dismayed and so forth. That they were informed on the clock.
Yes.
These dudes were speechless and had nothing to say. But looking back, the Atlanta Falcons must have thought that Michael Penix was an absolute steal. They were probably shocked that no one was able to trade up for Penix between picks 4 and 7. He was a highly touted prospect coming out of Washington. Most draft analysts said that he was the best deep ball thrower in the entire draft. Also, keep in mind, Penix played 49 games between Indiana and Washington, making him one of the most experienced and pro-ready QBs in the 2024 draft class. What was also hilarious was watching Kirk Cousins try to downplay how pissed off he is about this throughout different press conferences during the offseason. He was asked if he still would have signed with the Falcons had he known they were going to draft Penix.
If they would have told you then that they were going to take a pick quarterback at 8, would you have signed?
I don't really deal in hypotheticals. We could go down that path for a long time in a lot of ways. It just doesn't do us any good. So, I'm excited for this opportunity to have. I think it's a real privilege to be a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way to avoid the question. Clearly, he would have gone to a different team. But what was crazy is that right before the draft, NFL insider Ian Rappaport made a prescient statement.
Here, Arthur Blank, the owner, has made it clear that succession plan at quarterback is very important to him. My understanding, though, they took a hard look at quarterback, specifically Michael Penix. Will they take him at 8? I don't know the answer to that, but I know it is something that they are going to consider, if only because of what owner Arthur Blank wants him to.
It seems like the owner of the Falcons is the one who has his hands all over this. So as we all entered the 2024 season, many assumed that Michael Penix would sit under Kirk Cousins for a couple years and then Penix would eventually take over. I mean, Kirk Cousins is 36 years old coming off an Achilles injury. But then something odd happened where the Falcons decided after one preseason game that Michael Penix was good and they didn't need to develop him anymore in preseason.
You and I have been around this forever. Tell me when you've heard of a rookie going, well, he played good in preseason game number 1. We're not going to play him again the rest. We've saw enough. A rookie?
You had NFL analysts like Chris Sims saying that this never happens, and this was quite odd. Wouldn't you want your future quarterback to get as many game reps as possible? Because clearly he's not going to start this year since you have Kirk Cousins. It seems quite obvious now that the Falcons wanted to make sure Michael Penix was healthy because they knew that at some point the plug will need to be pulled on Mr. Kirk Cousins. To be fair to the Falcons and head coach Raheem Morris, he has always defended the Falcons' decision to select Michael Penix despite giving Kirk Cousins the bag.
We have Kirk. For however long Kirk gives us great football. And we're preparing Michael to take over whenever that time comes. And it's not going to be easy. It has to come with open and clear communication and more and honest.
That time came earlier than the Falcons thought. Right away at the beginning of the season against the Pittsburgh Steelers, it seemed like Kirk Cousins was not fully healed from that Achilles injury. But regardless, throughout the first half of the NFL season in 2024, the Falcons were fine. They had a big win against the Philadelphia Eagles and also a huge overtime victory against the NFC South division rival Tampa Bay Buccaneers, leading them to a 6-3 record with a clear shot to win the division and make the playoffs. But then out of nowhere, the regression came and the Falcons dropped 4 losses in a row, starting against the New Orleans Saints, then the Denver Broncos, the LA Chargers, and also Kirk Cousins' former team, the Minnesota Vikings.
I've never seen Kirk Cousins make a decision that bad. I mean, he threw the ball into a mosh pit a number of times yesterday, let alone the arm looked a little weak yesterday.
Cousins went 4 games with 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Many have labeled this 4-game stretch the worst of Kirk Cousins' long career. He has been struggling as a passer in terms of arm strength and is less mobile than ever, especially with that nagging Achilles injury from 2023. But even though the Falcons got absolutely whooped by Cousins' old team, the Vikings, head coach Raheem Morris went on a passionate rant defending his quarterback.
You got to have trust and belief in the people that got you to where you were, right? Kirk came here and he got us to a point that we are in a playoff contention.
What's even hilarious is that he says he doesn't want to be like other organizations and pull the plug on somebody because they're struggling right now.
I don't want to be like some organizations who make harsh decisions or critical decisions on your critical decision makers when they fail you or they make their mistakes.
When we all know that's exactly what the Falcons would end up doing. What was interesting is that while head coach Raheem Morris was defending his quarterback, he was asked if he considered putting Michael Penix in the game. And he basically said no, he did not consider that because it is Kirk Cousins' former team. But the key phrase he said is not today, leaving it open. So many saw this benching coming after the Vikings game, despite the fact that Kirk Cousins would get one last start as an Atlanta Falcon against the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday Night Football. The Falcons game against the Raiders was embarrassing because even though they won this game, they had to fight till the very last second to secure the victory. Kirk Cousins only threw for roughly over 100 yards in this game, and this is against a team that is tied with the worst record in the entire NFL and is looking towards the draft in 2025. Kirk Cousins seemed like he knew it was over when asked about his struggles after the Raiders game.
But he says to us, we have to play better at the quarterback position. It's kind of the first time that we've heard him say that.
Sure.
Can you assess your play tonight? And would you say that you're starting to feel a little pressure as the Falcons remain in the playoff race?
Yeah, I think I do need to play better. I don't think that's a mystery. I think the last few weeks I would say, I need to play better, and so that's Raheem says it, but it's stating the obvious. And
the media started talking about how the Falcons have to bench Kirk Cousins right here, right now. And NFL insider Jordan Schultz gave a shocking report from the locker room.
I have had players inside that locker room tell me point blank, Michael Penix Jr. is the best quarterback in this building. The fact that they are still with Cousins is because of optics.
Players, if this NFL analyst is right, have been wanting Michael Penix to start for quite some time. And head coach Raheem Morris, who had passionately defended Kirk Cousins throughout the season, could no longer defend him anymore and was non-committal as to whether or not he would be the future quarterback for the rest of the season.
The reality is, inside the Falcons building, it is evident. Kirk Cousins physically is not what he was. He's just not.
And now, with 3 games left to go, the Atlanta Falcons have officially announced that they are benching Kirk Cousins after giving him $100 million guaranteed, and they are starting the rookie quarterback Michael Penix with 3 games left. Right now, the Falcons have a 7-7 record. They have an upcoming easy matchup against the New York Giants, who are as bad as the Raiders right now, along with a tough Washington Commanders and then an easy Carolina Panthers team. So they could make the playoffs and perhaps go 2-1 or 3-0 in this 3-game stretch. But this is now looking like one of the worst free agent signings in NFL history. Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause and has all the leverage in these upcoming negotiations with the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to try to trade Kirk Cousins before March 16th to save money, but he will likely say no. If he is going to join a new team, why would he not just get cut by the Atlanta Falcons and avoid his new team giving up draft picks for him? So the Falcons, since there is no turning back now, will be forced to cut Kirk Cousins and eat $65 million in dead money over the next 2 seasons. It's also not clear that another team would want Kirk Cousins' services in 2025. That is why the writing has kind of been on the wall for Kirk Cousins for the past few weeks, because it's obvious to all these NFL analysts that the guy has been struggling mightily. Cousins will be 37 by the start of the season next year. Could he end up being a backup, maybe joining the San Francisco 49ers, since he has a relationship with the Shanahan family, where Mike Shanahan helped draft Kirk Cousins with the Washington Redskins? If the Falcons make the playoffs by switching to Michael Penix Jr., could they look like geniuses now for selecting that quarterback as an emergency plan? And will he live up to the hype? He was selected before JJ McCarthy and also Bo Nix, who's doing really well with the Denver Broncos right now. But even though Kirk Cousins has clearly regressed since his injury from last year, it seems like the Atlanta Falcons only intended him to be a 2-year starter, and they were going to switch to Michael Penix Jr. anyway. But Kirk Cousins was so bad that the Falcons could not wait 2 years, let alone 14 weeks. Let's hope he bounces back soon.